Finding the best criminal lawyer in Houston. We've got our video here today. We're going to be answering 5 questions that we got asked about how to find the best criminal lawyer in Houston. What are the key qualities to look for when hiring a criminal defense attorney in Houston? Well, I think the key quality you want to look for, no matter what kind of a lawyer you're hiring, is honesty. People laugh when you say that because the reputation that lawyers have, just in general, you've all heard lawyer jokes and things like that. But especially in criminal law, it can be different than in other types because the other side in criminal law is not the victim. It's the prosecutor, it's the state of Texas. And as a defendant who is being thrust into the criminal justice system, it is a scary place to be. And it is normally a kind of case where you're going to have to make a very difficult decision at some point. Not every case gets dismissed. Not every case results in a conviction, but most cases don't go to a trial like you see on TV. So most cases are settled by some type of an agreement. A lot of the times we can get an agreement that it's a really easy decision. It's a great deal and it's a no brainer, right? But a lot of times we will also have a case where it's a difficult decision. And if you can't trust that your lawyer is telling you the truth, that his opinion or her opinion of what's going on in your case and how strong the evidence is or how weak it is, if you don't really trust that, then that is the biggest thing I can say. It's going to make it more difficult. You basically have wasted any money that you've spent on this lawyer if at the end of the day, when you have to make a difficult decision, you don't really trust that they're telling you the truth. Um, so what we do here at Houston Criminal Defense Attorneys is we basically, part of our culture here, we are going to tell you the hard, difficult truth about your case from the moment that we start talking, from the very first consultation. I will tell people, if you've been to prison twice before already, and you're on DWI number 5 or something like that, um, they're going to be offering you prison time. There's not going to be a discussion about that. They're going to offer you prison time. If we want to avoid that, we're going to have to go to trial. That's a good example. Um, if you've got a brand new case that is you've never had any criminal history before, it's a misdemeanor for, I don't know, good example might be theft from Walmart, something like that. We have really good high rates of success on cases like that. There's no problem with telling you that. The problem comes when you're talking to an attorney and they try to make you some kind of guarantee. If you're talking to a lawyer and they say, I guarantee we're going to get this case dismissed for you, or I guarantee you're never going to have to go back to jail, that's where you need to be careful because there is no guarantees in criminal law. It's actually unethical to make a guarantee as a criminal law lawyer. It's unethical to take a fee based on a contingent outcome. Like, so you can't enter into a deal with a criminal lawyer that says, if we don't win, you don't have to pay. You can do that in a personal injury case, but you can't do it in a criminal case. And the reason is because there is such a extreme importance on being honest with your client. In criminal law, it's different than a lot of other types of law, and we have the ability, because we have attorney client privilege, we can be totally honest with you and you can be totally honest with us. There's this if you're a criminal lawyer and you have a client, they said they've murdered somebody, they told you where the body is, you have an obligation to never discuss that with anybody. You have to take every word that a client tells you basically to the grave. There are very few types of lawyers that can say they have that complete level of confidentiality that we do, and we take it very seriously in criminal defense. The next question: how important is local experience when choosing a criminal defense attorney, and what specific expertise should they have in Houston? So, I think that the best way to answer this question is obviously yes, local experience is important, but why is that so important? Every county does things a little differently. So a lot of people think that, we have one set of laws in the state of Texas, and that's true. It's created by the legislature in Austin, but those laws are applied very differently through different elected district attorneys' offices. And each sheriff that runs the jail in each county is also elected differently in each county. And so these are separate elected officials. They have no requirement to work together closely or effectively. There's no one above them telling them what they have to do because they're elected by the people. They are they're king of their little agency, whatever it is. So you've got the Harris County Sheriff who's in charge of the jail, who's in charge of all of that. You've got the Harris County District Attorney's Office, elected district attorney. That is the king or queen, of Harris County law enforcement and the DA office decisions. So they don't have to do it the same as another county. So let's say you have a good friend who's a lawyer in Dallas, okay? And they just don't handle cases in Houston all the time. They're not going to know exactly what the procedures are for a case down in Houston. So, like myself, I was a former prosecutor, former chief prosecutor at the Harris County District Attorney's Office, and was assigned to felony courts, misdemeanor courts, the intake division. So, I've seen the cases from the very beginning of the case where the police officers are calling the district attorney's office to see if they can arrest that person, uh, did warrants, things like that, all the way through jury trials and all of that. So the grand jury process too is different in every county. And so you have to know what that process is in order to be effective. So let's give a good example. Let's say your case was in Montgomery County instead of Harris County. That's a very different animal. It is much more difficult. The jurors are give higher sentences in Montgomery County than in Harris County. The district attorney's office has different procedures. Even what they call things is different. So, like an emergency protective order in Montgomery County is called an EPO. Okay. A magistrate's order of emergency protection is the same thing, but they call it a MOEP in Harris County. So if you're talking to a Harris County prosecutor and you call something an EPO, they may not even know what you're talking about. Same thing if you go up to Montgomery County, you call something a MOEP and you're really talking about an EPO, they might not have any idea what you're talking about. So understanding that local language, the way that the system operates, it's important. Here's another question we got asked. Can I talk with past clients of yours to find out their experiences? So everything that a prior client tells me is totally confidential. I can't give you their name, their number, a phone call. We can't do that. What we can do is refer you to reviews online. People are allowed to give a review if they want to, and we have reviews online. Um, Google has a good system for that. Every now and then, you'll see a firm that looks like maybe some of these reviews aren't real. Maybe they're being spoofed. I don't know. All I can do is speak to our law firm. Is we give the opportunity to review to everybody. We've gotten all 5-star reviews so far. I think the reason for that at our particular firm is we communicate with our clients. It's important for us that they understand what's happening in their case. They want to know that there's somebody there to answer the phone. We answer the phone, and we do that by taking a fewer number of cases than other law firms, I think. And that gives us the opportunity to take more time for each case, give an update when you need an update, not when it's just convenient for us. Every lawyer is going to talk to you on your court date. Can you get a hold of your lawyer in between court dates? That's a good way to determine, do I have the best lawyer that I can get? What is the typical cost range for hiring a criminal defense attorney in Houston? And are there payment plans or options for those with limited financial resources? So lawyers have different ethical rules with how you're allowed to charge a fee. Okay. If you talk with a lawyer or you look at a lawyer's webpage, you're almost never going to find fees published on a web page. The reason is because criminal cases are so incredibly complicated and different. Every one is totally different. You could have the same charge, DWI, let's say, and let's say DWI first. You could have one where there were no standardized field sobriety tests that were done. There's refusal on all those. There was no breath or blood test, and no traffic accident, anything like that. Like a speeding was the reason for the stop. That is going to be a much more uh, simple case than one there where there was a traffic accident, where they did standardized field sobriety tests. The video is going to be 2 hours long, maybe instead of 15 minutes, like the other case. Um, the way they do this test might require additional research because maybe they've done something incorrectly. Maybe the timing on the HGN, where they're passing their finger in front of your face, or a stimulus of some sort, maybe that's been messed up. Maybe we need to get an expert witness to talk about those things, versus in the first case, those tests didn't occur, so you don't have anything there. If you have a breath or a blood test, how was the breath test being operated? Was it calibrated properly? Was the reference sample chilled to 34 degrees properly? There's so many things that go into that. That's the same charge. you know, if you have no criminal history, there's going to be no enhancements. But if you have some criminal history, there will be enhancements. It's going to make your punishment range higher. So there's really no way to predict exactly how much work we are going to have to do at the law firm for your case until we start to talk with you. We get more information about the case. We hear what happened, what level offense are they charging, um, all that kind of stuff. And buying an attorney is not like buying a couch. If you need a couch, you want the best couch you can get for the best price, right? But that couch is just going to sit in your living room. You're going to sit on it, and hopefully it's comfortable. If you get a bad one, whatever, you can get rid of it and you can buy a better one, a more expensive one. For an attorney, what we're talking about is your life. We're talking about your future, the rest of your ability to provide for your family, to continue a career, to start a career. Um, Having a criminal case on your record can be very, very damaging. Now, there's some things that we can do to stop that. And there's this old saying, there's nothing more expensive than a cheap lawyer. And, I think that's true. It's been my experience that I think that's true. We're not a cheap law firm, but I think we're a good law firm. And I think when you're talking to lawyers, you have to judge it based on who you're comfortable with and who you think has that experience in that area that you've got your case. It does. I'm not saying you should always go with the most expensive lawyer, because that's not true either. Uh, but you have to understand that a lawyer's stock in trade is his time. What you're buying when you buy an attorney, hire an attorney, is you're hiring that attorney's time investment in your case. And so you need to be able to understand that attorney's time is valuable too. There may be, if they're a good attorney, there's going to be many different people who want to hire them. And what you're doing is you're saying, I need to be one of the people that this person's able to help. There's lots of good attorneys. If you can't find one that's in your price range, sometimes an attorney will talk with you and recommend you another lawyer who might be a little newer, maybe hasn't had the same level of experience, but is still good for your type of case. So it's not possible for me to answer. I think any good lawyer would tell you that it's not possible to answer what a case is going to cost until you hear about what's going on, what kind of charge it is, and different enhancements and things like that. So I know it's a very lawyer answer. It depends is always the lawyer answer, but this one really does matter. It does depend on what's going on in your case, and a good lawyer will be able to give you a quote after talking with you about it. But yeah, that's our answer for that. And then last question, how can I be sure that the case doesn't go on my record? So this is a question we get asked all the time. Maybe the most asked question that we get is, how do I keep this off my record? Well, first we need to talk about what your record is. What is a criminal record? So when most people talk about a criminal record, they think that there's like this single database that all the criminal lawyers and the police and the prosecutors we all look at this one thing and then that's it. Okay, that's not true. Criminal history information is kept in a lot of different places. So, for example, when we do an expunction, which is the erasure of all the records for a particular event. So let's say that DWI we've kind of been talking about. somebody gets arrested for DWI. If we can get the case dismissed, and that's an important distinction, all the way dismissed. You didn't take a deferred probation. You didn't pay a fine, just paying the fine and getting a conviction or anything like that. There's no conviction. The case has been dismissed. Then that is something that can be expunged off your record. And that means that every organization that had criminal history information about it has to delete it. Okay. So that includes the police officer's agency that arrested you. They would have to delete their offense reports, their arrest records. We have something called a DIMS summary. Any record they have of that case, they'd have to delete it. Then the district attorney's office would have to delete it, especially if you've gotten what we call a complete dismissal, meaning they believe that they couldn't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. You didn't have to complete a pretrial intervention course or anything like that. They'll have to delete every record of that information or that case. Then after the DA's office, it'll go to the clerk's office. Then after the clerk's office, they will enter it, and the jail will also enter it into a system that the FBI runs called TCIC NCIC. And that is what we would traditionally call like the criminal history printout. Okay. That is something that comes from every jurisdiction around the country, even overseas. They're connected to this main terminal. So if there was this one centralized place, it would probably be TCIC NCIC. But just because it doesn't exist there doesn't mean it won't exist somewhere else. The other problem that we see a lot is mugshots online and things like that. Getting those down can be very difficult, because especially if the mugshot's been up for a while, because internet companies will scrape that data from different sites. And once they've scraped it, it's very difficult to get that stuff, find it, and get it off. But that is part of the expunction process. So how can you be sure a case doesn't go on your record? There's only one way, really, I would say, to be sure that we can get it off, because it's going to go on initially. If you've been arrested, you have a criminal history. You're going to have an FBI number that they're going to assign you. And then once that happens, the only way to get it off is to get a complete dismissal and then complete an expunction, which is a separate civil process. And that is answering all the questions we've got today, how to find the best lawyer in Houston. My name is Brian Foley. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.